Hello, welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie, and today I have a special featured finished project video for you. Every once in a while, I will do one of these shorter clips where I share with you a finished project in its entirety, from the thought process, through the modifications, through the end result, and how I plan on wearing it. Usually I record the video shortly after finishing it so that all the details of making it are fresh in my mind, and then I'll pull some other items that I already have in my dresser in my closet to see how I plan on wearing the finished project with the other items that I already have. Usually I will start out with a breakdown of the pattern specifications, information that the designer will give you prior to purchasing the pattern, and that way I don't give away any paid for information. And then I'll go into my modifications, and then at the end I'll go through different styling options that I may have thought of while I was making it, maybe sometimes prior to making the item, and all the things I have not necessarily worn out anywhere already, since I will have just finished the project. So you'll see my first reactions as I'm putting the pieces together. Today I have for you the Lento by Jonna Helin. She is a Finnish designer who is the CEO and creative director of Lento Publishing. This pattern came out in May 2021. On Ravelry, there are nearly 3,500 projects. This is my second version of this pattern, and I do look forward to making more in the future. It is something that I find super versatile and a blank canvas, basically, to make it into whatever mood I feel like creating. The pattern price is €690 or $8.20 USD. The pattern recommends using fingering weight plus a lace weight to achieve a gauge of 15 stitches by 21 rows in 4 inches knit on the bigger size needles, which are US 10 or 6mm needles. 2 needle sizes are recommended, a US 6, which is a 4mm for all the ribbing, and then the US 10 or 6mm needle for the rest of the stockinette portions. Now, needle sizes are always just recommended for the gauge, but you may need to adjust the needle sizes up or down to achieve the desired gauge. The pattern comes in 9 sizes. That is a finished circumference of 38.5 inches to 67.25 inches. You are given the measurements for all the different bust circumference finished measurements, as well as the upper arm circumference, the length from the underarm to the hem, and the sleeve length from the underarm to the end of the cuff. Just note that if you make any modifications, the yardage approximations listed on the pattern page will be different than what you end up using. So you may end up using less or more yarn. The Lento is knitted from the top down, and it has raglan increases. The neckband is written for a provisional cast on, and then you do fold it in half and knit it together. I chose not to do that, but I will talk about that later. The pattern is designed to be like a high hip length, and then the sleeves are like 3/4 to bracelet length. It just kind of depends on your body proportions to the proportions that are written out in the pattern. I will have a picture of the sample images here on the screen so you get an idea of what the fit looks like as intended. The finishes all have ribbing, a knit one, purl one ribbing, and that is in the neckband, the cuffs, and the hem. I picked size 1, which gives me about 6 inches of positive ease, so right within those recommendations, maybe a little more. It kind of just depends on how I block it. If I block it out really wide, I could probably get to that recommended number for size 1 or even a little bigger, but I feel like over time, garments tend to want to get to wherever they want to be, so sometimes that may be a little wider, sometimes that may be a little bit narrower. It just depends on the fabric. I did achieve gauge with the yarns that I used, and I also used the recommended needle sizes. Now I did change my neckline in the sense that I didn't do the provisional cast on. I did an old Norwegian cast on, which always gives me a very stretchy edge, and then I just folded it in half and knit to my cast on edge. I find that works really well for me. I do it multiple times in socks and in sweaters, and I never have an issue. So I just go ahead and do it that way every time a provisional cast on is called for in a folded neckband. I did do a contrast lining, I guess you could say, for my neckband. I do have a tutorial for something like this, but done on socks without ribbing. It's just all stockinette, but it's the same idea. I will link to that here in the description box as well as up here in the corner. But basically what you do is you knit to slightly past the halfway point of the number of rounds of ribbing, and that way when it's folded in half, part of it peeks through on the top. I did knit my rib slightly longer than the pattern because I just wanted a little more of a neckband. I feel like once it blocks and stretches out a little, you do lose a little bit of the height of the neckband, and I just liked the look of one that was slightly wider. So I just did a few extra rounds for that. My neon yellow here is Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in Highlighter Yellow. It is a 75-25 super wash extra fine merino nylon blend, and I held that double. And then I followed the rest of the raglan increases in the yoke depth all as written, and for that yarn I held Patton's Croy sock yarn. It's a heavy fingering weight. It is labeled as fingering weight, but I feel like it can be knit up close to sport weight, like a light sport weight or a heavy fingering weight. It comes in 166 yards for 50 grams, and it's a 75% wool, 25% nylon. It is a superwash wool, but it isn't like a super slick yarn like merino would be. And so I held this. This is gray marl. It has like a very light gray plus a little bit more of a medium gray. Now I held that together with a light gray mohair that I have 0 grams remaining. So I will put a picture of it here on the screen so you can see what it looks like. And that was 50 grams of a yarn from France that I had won in a giveaway in 2019. So that was 4 years ago. And it is Toute le Matin. It is their kid silk mohair. So 72% kid mohair, 28% silk. It came in 431 yards for 50 grams. And I wanted to use the entire thing. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to really max out that yarn unless I put it in a garment, but I also knew it wasn't going to be quite enough for the entire garment. And so I paired it with another mohair. This is like a natural cream color mohair. I feel like the composition of the mohair and silk ratio is probably the same. This is from a knitter's homestead, and I believe it's from 2020 or 2021. It was from River's Advent calendar. I believe this was the one that was given on Christmas Eve. So it was 50 grams of this beautiful cream mohair. And so I blended it in to parts of the sleeve and then the hem of the body. And honestly, there's less of a difference than I thought there would be. I'm pleasantly surprised. I think it's because the two mohair colors that I picked are so similar in the non-fuzzy yarn marled together that they really blend together so nicely. And so I did alternate a little bit. So I did like one with the gray and the marled, and then I think 3 of the cream and the marled. No, the other way around. Anyway, I just gradually kind of faded it out over maybe 10 different rounds, and then I switched only to the cream. And then for the body section, I didn't have much to work with, so I think I only did like maybe 2 rounds of it alternating, but I can't even tell. And then it just went into the ribbing for the hem, and that is all done in the cream and the marled yarn. To mimic the folded neckband on all of my finishings, I did an Italian sewn bind off, so it gives it a rounded edge. And for the sleeves, I decided to knit 1 round of the highlighter yellow, the yarn held double, and then do a knit 1, purl 1, and then do the sewn bind off. So that's how my sleeve cuffs are. And then I left an extra long tail, and I did a crocheted slip stitch line between 2 of the knit, what would you call it? The knit lines. I can't think of what the word is, but I wanted to have this line here down the cuffs. I think that looks really cool. Oh, I didn't even tell you what I named this Lento. This is newspaper and highlighter. I talked about it briefly in a work in progress video on this project. And the reason I called it newspaper and highlighter is because the colors are like a newspaper, and I was thinking about the days where we had to bring in current events to school, and so I would be highlighting the parts I want to talk about, cut out the newspaper, and this is what it made me think of. It also made me think of those magic eye posters that were really popular in, I think, like the early 90s, where you stare at something long enough and something like pops out at you. I'll put a picture of what I'm talking about here on the screen. Maybe you know what I'm talking about, maybe you don't. I know a lot of people don't even get the newspaper anymore, so maybe this sweater is just a little bit nostalgic for me, but I love how it turned out, and I feel like it really does give off like newspaper highlighter vibes, and I am all for that. For the body section, I did go, I think, a little bit longer than the pattern, but the main modification I made was I added some short rows in the very back to make it a slightly high-low hem. You know what? I don't think it's visible at all. I'm going to move the camera down a little. Okay, so I'm going to turn to the side, and maybe you can see there's a slight difference between the front and the back, maybe just an inch. I didn't want a super dramatic high-low hem, but I did want it to be a little bit different. What I really appreciate about working with mohair is that the double stitches done in a short row are not that visible. I feel like sometimes with the turns in German short rows, there can be a little bit of a gap and some of the stitches can be kind of loose, which is fine. I just go through with like a darning needle and kind of pull at the yarn a little bit to even out the tension. However, knitting with mohair hides all of those loose, gapey parts because the fuzz just kind of fill in the rest. And that is fabulous. So I don't see any tension or loose stitches anywhere. I feel like it just looks super smooth. So I'm very pleased with how that turned out, and I love how there is a slight high-low hem. I also knit my sleeves way longer. I forgot to mention that when I was talking about sleeves. I think I knit my sleeves like 5 inches longer than what the pattern calls for, but that's also because if I'm going to be wearing a mohair sweater, I want it to be full coverage. Otherwise, I feel like my wrists would just be cold because I'm not going to wear a mohair sweater when it's not cold outside. This morning it was 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and wearing this with a raincoat on top was perfect. So comfortable, so light, so warm, but not overheating. One last thing is I did knit my cuffs and my hem to be slightly wider than what it says in the pattern. It's just the look that I was going for and what I wanted, so that's what I did. Okay, so now let's pull out some pieces of other clothing that I have, and we are going to see how this pairs with some different items. Ready? First up, we have a pair of jeans. I would say these are kind of a medium wash pair of jeans. They hit about ankle length. I tried to adjust the vertical position of the camera a little lower so that hopefully you can get a full view. And I feel like this is a good basic throw on, go to the park do anything, everyday kind of outfit. Very easy. Right now I am not wearing a t-shirt underneath this sweater. I have zero itch. Again, it's cooler today. It is a spring day here in Minnesota, 45 degrees. Might get up to 50 degrees, but I don't anticipate ever feeling too hot in this. Usually I would put on a t-shirt underneath a sweater just in case it'll be too hot. Not necessarily if it's itchy or something like that. But again, this is worn next to skin. I have zero issues with it feeling prickly at all. And I would probably wear a t-shirt underneath just in case I got too hot. But right now I don't have a t-shirt on underneath and it feels just fine. So this is something I could easily just throw on every day. That I sewed last summer. They are the June pants pattern by Helen's Closet, and I love this pattern so much. I have made so many pairs of pants and shorts out of that pattern, and I just love these very, very bright green linen pants. They're wide legs, they have pockets, it's elastic waist, and if I were to wear these linen pants, chances are it is warmer than 45 degrees outside, so I would probably be wearing a t-shirt under this if I was going to be wearing this mohair sweater. I'm thinking like early mornings or cooler evenings. This might be something that I would want to throw on, but I would probably wear like a white t-shirt or something else underneath and then just be able to have this to throw on and take off whenever. I don't feel like it would make any sense for me to wear this on its own because if I'm going to be wearing linen pants, chances are it is a little bit warmer outside, so if it got hot, I would want to take the sweater off. But I do like the proportions of this. I like where the hem hits with these higher waisted pants. And now, of course, because it's elastic waist, I can wear them higher or lower depending on what I am wearing on top. But I do like this pairing. I feel like the neon yellow with the bright green goes really well together, and yet I have this gray that really grounds the entire thing without making me feel like it's way too bright. I don't shy away from wearing bright, but I do like to have a little bit of balance, and I feel like this light marled gray on top really balances some of the bright pops of color. In the sense that I don't know if I normally would put these two together, but I thought I would give it a try just to try something different. This is a self-drafted skirt that I made last year. This sheep fabric is, I believe it's cotton linen. I purchased it at a fabric store in Japan, and I have pockets here that are linen, more of a flax color. And it isn't super A-line. I would say it goes somewhere between like a shallow A-line to a wider pencil skirt. It goes just past my knees, and I feel like this is comfortable together. This olivey brown color with this beige sheep doodle pattern, I feel like gives it kind of a fun, eclectic vibe to it. I haven't decided if I think it would look better with the sweater tucked in a little. I'm just gonna try it and see what I think. Again, you are seeing all of these outfits put on for the first time as I am, so I'm just kind of seeing how I feel about them. I feel like I would wear this. I'm trying to think what I would wear this with. If I'm going to be wearing a skirt out, chances are it is warmer outside. So I'm thinking like anywhere above 60 degrees Fahrenheit, I would probably wear this, or 65 degrees Fahrenheit. But then for my shoes, I'm not sure if my toes would be too cold wearing sandals or Birkenstocks. Unless I wore like short wool socks with Birkenstocks, that would complete the eclectic look, right? So I don't know. I think this is fun. I would wear this. I'd wear this out. I like it. I do think I like it better with the front tucked in compared to having it all out. And then because I did the high-low hem, there's not a ton of bunching of fabric in this front area just because there is actually less fabric in the front than the back due to how I knit the shaping. But yeah, I think this is kind of fun. I would wear this. I'd have to think about my shoes. I'd probably just put on sandals, honestly. I don't know. I like it though. I like it. I do find this to be a very fun outfit, maybe like a fiber festival type of outfit. I would probably wear a t-shirt underneath in case it got too hot, and then I could always just drape the sweater over my shoulders and tie a little knot in the front. I think that would look really nice. Yeah. I would wear this. Okay, I have one more thing to try on. Before I try on the last thing, I thought I would show you what it is because the top will be covered up. This is a Lawrence dress, also by Helen's Closet. I sewed this one also last summer. It is a combination of different linens. Some of the linen I bought as a remnant, so I wanted to use the entire thing. So this part in the middle, I believe this is the entire remnant. I don't think I cut anything out. And then the white linen I have for the bodice as well for the pockets. And then I have this beautiful sky blue tier along the bottom. So I'm thinking I will wear my sweater on top of this, but I wanted to show you what it looked like prior to putting on. So now I'm going to change into this. Okay, I think this one is fun. I feel like the bright blue on the bottom goes well with the neon. It's mostly neutral, which goes with the neutral gray. The length of the sweater isn't so high that I would feel it would cut me off at weird proportions. I feel like it's very comfortable. It is fun, and it is also something that has basically a built-in layer. I don't have to have another t-shirt underneath. I can just take the sweater off if I get too hot. And it hits above the pockets, which is where I like my sweaters to be or to end. If I'm wearing them with a skirt or a dress, I want them to end before it gets to the top of the pockets. So yeah, I think I really like this. That is 4 different outfits with the same sweater for maybe a little bit of a range of weather. The jeans I can wear basically any time, all year round, unless it's of course too hot. And then the skirts and the linen, that can be worn in warmer weather. In the very heat of summer, I wouldn't be grabbing a mohair sweater anyway. And so I'm feeling like I got a pretty good range for this sweater, and I am so pleased with it. So happy with how this turned out. I hope this video gave you a better idea of this Lento pattern, if it was something maybe you were interested in before or didn't know you were interested in before and now you are, or even if you figured out that it was something you are not interested in. I think there is still value in learning that for yourself. I also hope that maybe you have some ideas brewing for how you would like to make this your own by little modifications, little bit of color here and there, or maybe the entire thing a neon with something neutral in the other sections, or maybe stripes, or maybe you want to embroider on something outside of it once it is finished. There are so many options. I would love to hear how you would potentially wear a Lento if you have one already, or maybe you hope to make one in the future. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Cheers to being creative, and I will talk to you next time.